Minister, did you not realize that the disbandment of the PKTT would have serious implications, both in terms of the work that it performed, in terms of all the dockets that it handled, at all of the various stages at which they were? Did you not realize that?
Well, I didn't write anything about dockets.
This was not a decision like, let us buy a generator for the department, you know. It was not that, yes, that too has financial implications, but I think the implications of disbanding the PKTT would be far-reaching. Do you accept that that is so?
I didn't indicate anything about dockets because I understood that when I issued the directive, it doesn't have immediate implications on what was happening in relation to dockets, and it wouldn't have, because that would be a subject of discussion in the preliminary report and subsequent meetings that would take place. This was a mere decision to say, let's start the process of engagement, in other words. Insofar as you were concerned, the effect of your decision would be down the line, as it were. That the effect of my decision would be assessed properly, engaged on after the decision in the preliminary
if
report.
It were to take effect, and I'm saying if it were to take effect because you say there could have been the possibility of a reversal. So if it were to take effect, it would take effect down the line. Do you accept that?
If there would be...
If your decision were to take effect, it would take effect down the line. Do you accept that?
Yes, I accept that.
Yes. This takes me back to my question as to, it's not as if once you said disbanded immediately, your decision would take effect immediately. So if that were the case, I go back to my question, why did you rush and say disbanded immediately? Why did you not invite input on whether there should be a disbandment at all?
Commissioners, the letter itself, as I've indicated, clearly got written with a fair space for engagement. As I said before, it was not to say stop everything as of now, minding that it was 31st of December, and it says, let's engage through the preliminary report.
Exactly my point.
Yes.
Exactly my point. Why not engage before? Why rush to the decision to disband immediately? Exactly my point, Minister. But I will move on. Maybe let me leave my colleagues, perhaps will deal with the disbandment issue and your letter later. I have a few other questions which may not be few because of necessary follow-up questions. General Sintumule told us that there are more than 10 task teams nationally. Do you accept that this is indeed so, Minister?
Agreed.
Thank you. Is there any other task team that you have disbanded?
There is a unit, not a task team, that we disbanded, the police inspectorate.
I'm talking about a task team, Minister. Is there any other task team that you have disbanded?
There is no other task team that we disbanded because the only one that we could talk about was MPKTT, because the other ones were established by National Commissioner and they fell within his purview.
I'm not sure I understand that answer. I read your statement, Minister, to say that you can operate even in the, or put it this way, you say that this idea that you cannot play a role on operational matters is incorrect. You say so in your statement.
Yes.
And some of the operational matters would be matters that concern the purview of function, obviously, of the commissioner, and indeed anything that relates to whatever the national commissioner may have done. Would that not be correct? To the extent that you say that constitutionally, because you say that you can act even operationally, you say that comes from the Constitution. So constitutionally you say you may engage in operational matters, correct? That's in your statement.
That is not to say practically go and constitute, decide who must get into the team, who must go and be based where. That is away from
No,
that.
no, Minister, no, please. I'm just saying, you say in your statement that the Constitution empowers you to play a role even in operational matters. Does your statement not say so?
It says so, but in italics.
Sorry?
It says so in italics, and I want to emphasize that. That it meant that you...
So you may oh, all right, let me listen, yes. Let me listen, Minister, yes.
Yes. It was to say that while you have your constitutional duties and as identified by the Constitution, and the National Commissioner has his duties, but you don't operate with the Chinese wall between yourselves. It is the two sides of the same coin, as I indicated. Therefore, when exercising your duties, you are aware of how they will impact practically, or yes, practically.
So you are saying then,
Operational,
Minister,
yes.
oh, sorry.
Yes, operational.
Operation.
Yeah.
So you are saying, I'm taking you back to your point about not having disbanded any other task team. So effectively you are saying that even if a task team may be operating in the most criminal and horrendous manner, you would never ever disband it purely because it was set up by the National Commissioner.
No, I'm not saying that. There would be an engagement, there would be a discussion to say what is happening here, and let us discuss what we are getting in terms of what this task team is doing or what is happening around this task team, either because it gives us bad image or for whatever reason. Then we would engage, because that would be a task team established in terms of 11(2)(d).
And if the National Commissioner dug in his heels, you would throw your hands up in the air and say, I'm not disbanding this task team because it was established by the National Commissioner.
Not at all. We would engage further.
No. Let's take you to the very end point where even you are satisfied that further engagement is not going to take you anywhere. So the National Commissioner is digging in his heels. You would throw your hands up in the air.
Not at all. It would mean that we are now incompatible. And because the National Commissioner is appointed by the President, I would go to the President to say we are becoming incompatible with the National Commissioner based on 1, 2, 3. And then he takes a decision.
I will leave it at that because I was tempted to say, and then a new national commissioner is appointed, and that national commissioner is happy with the existence of that task team, but I will leave it there. Because I just want to test this idea that you can only disband task teams that have been created by whom, by the way?
Yes, you can only...
Task teams created by whom?
Yes, you can only disband the task team as minister.
Created by whom?
Created by first.
Because you, the minister, cannot create any task teams.
No, I'm saying this one, as I say, was not created by the National Commissioner. It was created through the intervention of the President, then the task team, the interministerial, and then deciding that there should be a mechanism.
But that's what informed the decision. But
Yes.
the actual creation would have been in terms of statute, and where would that be? It would be in SAPS, and it must have been by the National Commissioner ultimately. It may have been informed by what the President said, that filtering down to the IMC, then that filtering down to the National Commissioner. So this must have been created by the National Commissioner as well. Because statutorily, there is no way that something called an interministerial committee could, as a matter of law, set up a task team. That is not possible.
They took a decision, commissioners, that there should be a mechanism in the form of a
But
task
the
team.
actual creation in law, the
Yes.
actual creation in law would have been by the National Commissioner.
Operationally. He would be operationalized.
But in law, Minister, it would have been created by the National Commissioner, in law. Yes, it would have, the creation would have been informed by the IMC decision, but in law, the actual creation would have been by the National Commissioner.
I see
You see, what I'm testing here is this idea that in law, there are some task teams that are created by I don't know whom, and others that are created by the National Commissioner, and that those that are created by whomsoever, you are entitled to disband. But those that are created by the National Commissioner, you cannot disband. I don't understand that as a matter of law. Anyway, let me move on, Minister.
But I want to put just one point, that this one, NPKTT, the decision was through a directive of the executive side of government, and then it was operationalized. These other ones, National Commissioner can take a decision to establish and to disestablish. It has nothing to do with the directive of the executive.
I'll move on, Minister. You say the PKTT expenditure could not be justified. Did you compare it with the expenditure of other task teams?
No, we were dealing with the overall allocation of the budget, and I only complained about the management, the way we were managing the budget and allocating it. I did talk about less expenditure on detectives, less expenditure on other enablers. So it was not necessarily to be confined to a particular task team. It was spread in the whole organization to say we are not allocating the resources correctly here and here.
Minister, you have said the expenditure of the PKTT was not justified. I'm asking you a simple question. Did you compare that expenditure with the expenditure of other task teams? It's a simple question. Did you or did you not?
No, I didn't compare it
Thank
with
you.
other task teams, but I do want to say the reason to remove the police inspectorate was exactly the same as that of the task team, the National Political Killings Task Team.
So, Minister, for all you know, the expenditure of other task teams could well have been significantly higher than that of the PKTT.
Come again?
For all you know, the expenditure of the other task teams could well have been significantly higher than that of the PKTT,
or could be less.
but could be significantly higher also.
And could be significantly.
No. Do you accept the possibility I'm positing to you,
Okay.
Minister? Do you?
Yes.
Thank you. Did you ever assess the continued utility of any other task team, that is, of the more than 10 task teams, besides the PKTT? Did you ever assess the utility of the others, continued utility of the others?
Not exactly, but I'm saying it was in the form of assessing the organizational structures, all of them, and not necessarily one by one. Because even the PKTT, we didn't necessarily approach it as an individual team. We were approaching or defining the problem as that of, from the macro point of view, to say, what is it that we need to do with the structure? What do we need to do with the systems and so on? And as things came, we were then taking decisions as we reflected on what we saw as we were looking at the organization. That is how the inspectorate came in the form of discussion. It was not because we had an agenda item on any day saying, police inspectorate, we are going to be discussing it. It arose in our assessment as we were doing our work. And it came to our attention that there is police inspectorate. And by the way, what is it in the context of optimizing our budget? And later, by the way, what does NPKTT mean in the process of optimizing? And I'm sure there would have been any other that would have come as we process our thinking in terms of optimizing our budget.
Last question, Minister. I'm not altogether sure that the last answer answered my question, but I will not press. Last question. Why was the PKTT the first task team to be disbanded? In fact, first and only to be disbanded. But my focus is more on first. Why was it the first task team to be disbanded?
Now, I've indicated, Commissioner, that the first to be disbanded was not even a task team. It was a unit.
I said earlier, let's forget about the inspectorate, which you have said was a unit. I'm talking task teams, Minister.
Yes.
Why did you pick on the PKTT to be the first and only thus far, actually, victim of disbandment?
Now, we have stated the reasons that in our discussion, our assessment, our attention got caught by PKTT, and in view of us discussing the structure in relation to murder and robbery and all of the history that we have been indicating. And there is no other task team that fell in that particular category as we were discussing. PKTT had been almost 7 years and there was impact on the budget and other related matters. So it came. If there was any other task team that came, and I'm sure there would have been another that would have come later on, but it was this one that caught our attention, and we then discussed it.
Minister, when did, I know I said last question, yes. I hope this will be the last. Okay. When did the thought that I must disband the PKTT first strike you?
It was 29, 30, 31. On those days when I was no longer moving up and down, I was just sitting and reflecting on what we had been doing in the last 5 months. And I picked up what I thought were the most important things, especially by the end of the 6 months, and things that would have needed to focus on at the beginning of the year, and which had a lot of impact on crime. And we then said, I identified those three. But it was just a process that came when I sat down, 29, 30, 31.
Minister, why I'm asking you that is because the very day before, the first one of the 3 days that you mentioned, the 29th. So the very day before, the 28th of November 2024, December 2024, you were at a funeral, I think it was in Mpangeni, together with the National Commissioner of Police. And after the funeral, you wished each other well for the end of the year and so on. And you do not for a minute say to the National Commissioner, I am thinking of, in fact, I have decided to disband the PKTT. And starting tomorrow, I'm actually going to work on my document in that regard. But I know what your answer will be. Your answer is going to be, no, Commissioner, you are talking about the 28th, and the thought struck me only on the 29th. I was going to say to you, it is very strange that you did not mention the disbandment to the National Commissioner on the 28th. But I will not suggest it because you say you were suddenly struck by this thought on the 29th. I will leave it at that. But I find it very strange that on something so important, with the sort of implications that you yourself realized, because you say you did not expect it, even though you said immediately, you did not expect it to happen there and there, on something so important with such implications that you would only have thought of it within 3 days of the issuance of your letter. So you think now and you act very quickly within 3 days, poof, you've decided on an issue that is that important with all of these implications. I would, as I say, have suggested that at the latest, you should have mentioned this to the National Commissioner on the 28th at the funeral at Mpangeni. But I say I will.